The wine hit before Lena could stand. 1 second. She was sitting alone in an ivory dress above the rainy lights of Chicago. The next, red spilled down her chest while the whole restaurant watched. And the woman holding the empty glass had her exact face. Sloane Whitaker smiled like she had just corrected a mistake. Lena did not scream. She did not even move. She had spent her whole life learning how to disappear beside her twin. But across the room, Nico Moretti saw what everyone else pretended not to see. He rose from his table. And the silence changed. This is the story of a woman pushed past fear. A sister who mistook cruelty for love. And the night Lena finally stopped apologizing for existing. 3 days earlier, she was still trying to believe peace was possible. After sunset, the Art Institute of Chicago became the only place Lena trusted. During the day, it belonged to tourists, donors, polished shoes, and voices that echoed too loudly beneath the ceiling. At night, it belonged to the paintings. Lena liked it that way. The empty galleries did not ask her to smile, explain, or become easier for other people to handle. In the conservation room, wearing a navy cardigan buttoned to her throat, she studied a set of American Impressionist sketches under soft light. Trees, lake water, a woman by a window, fragile things but not weak ones. That was what Lena loved about old paper. It could survive fire, careless hands, and time itself if someone treated it with patience. She bent closer, trying to follow a faint line near the edge. Some of the sketches carried stains. Thin watermarks dried into the paper like old bruises. One had a tear so fine it almost looked alive. Lena leaned under the lamp and forgot the city outside. Then a voice came from behind her. Most people miss that. She startled hard enough to bump the table, one gloved hand flying to her chest. Dr. Helen Marsh stood in the doorway with a coffee cup and an apologetic wince. Helen was sharp, silver-haired, and impossible to fool. She could silence a donor with one raised eyebrow, but with Lena she had learned to be careful. "Sorry," Helen said. "I didn't mean to scare you." Lena forced a breath into her lungs. "It's okay." Helen stepped inside. "What did you find?" Lena pointed near the figure's hand without touching the page. "The rest of the sketch is loose," Lena said. "Quick strokes, almost careless. But the hand is different." He slowed down there. "See the thumb? The knuckle." He knew her. Helen studied the paper, then looked at Lena with real warmth. "You have a brilliant eye." Lena's gaze dropped at once. Praise always made her feel exposed, like someone had pulled a curtain open before she was ready. "You see what other people miss," Helen added. "It's easier than being seen," Lena said before she could stop herself. The words hung between them. She wanted to gather them back and hide them somewhere safe. Helen did not push. That was one of the reasons Lena trusted her. "Are you all right?" she asked. Lena gave the old answer, "Just tired." It was not true, but it was familiar. Helen held her gaze for a second longer, then nodded. "Finish that page. Then go home." Her footsteps faded down the marble hall. Lena exhaled, grateful and ashamed at the same time. Then her phone buzzed against the table. She knew who it was before she looked. Sloane, the messages came like orders. "Don't wear blue. Don't talk too much about your work. Don't embarrass us on your date." Us, such a small word. But Sloane had always used it like a leash. They were identical twins. Same dark hair. Same eyes. Same face. But everything important had split in opposite directions. Sloane had learned how to take up a room. Lena had learned how to survive by leaving no trace. When they were children, adults treated them like a trick. Smile together, stand together, switch places. Their mother dressed them alike long after Lena begged her to stop. Sloane loved the attention. She knew how to tilt her head, how to charm, how to make every mistake look accidental. Lena learned to wait until people looked away. Another message arrived. "Donna tried to imitate me tonight." Lena turned the phone face down. Under the warm lamp, the sketches waited without judging her. By the time she finished, snow had begun to fall outside, thin and silver against the windows. On her way out, she paused before a painting of a woman in a black dress. The woman's chin was lifted, her stare steady, her stillness almost defiant. Lena looked at her for a long time. "You look like you know exactly who you are," Lena whispered. The painted woman did not answer, and Lena was glad. Outside, Chicago cut through her coat with wet cold. Cars hissed over the pavement. A siren moved between towers of concrete and glass. A man shouted into the wind and kept walking. Lena admired the city for that. Chicago never apologized for being harsh. It never softened its edges because someone found them inconvenient. When she reached her apartment in Wicker Park, a package waited outside her door, no return address. Only her name written in Sloane's sharp slanted hand. Lena stopped in the hallway. Keys clenched so tightly they bit into her palm. Even before she opened it, she knew it was not really a gift. The old radiator clanked as Lena carried the box inside. Her apartment was small, crowded with books, art catalogs, thrift store lamps, and 3 blank canvases hanging above her desk. She had bought them during a rare burst of courage, and then never touched them. Inside the box was an ivory dress, expensive and beautiful, folded around a note in Sloane's handwriting. Try not to look like you wandered in from the library archives. Lena held the dress and felt anger rise, then fold in on itself. That was the cruelest thing about Sloane's gifts. They were never ugly. Ugly things could be thrown away. Beautiful things made refusal feel ungrateful. Her phone rang before the silence settled. Maya, Lena answered, still holding the silk straps in one hand. What voice is that? Maya asked. The voice of a woman about to fake food poisoning. Lena sank onto the couch. I'm not faking anything. You are absolutely faking something. Probably a sudden fever and moral exhaustion. Despite herself. Lena smiled. Maya had been her anchor since college. The friend who saw the wreckage Sloane left behind and never called it normal. Maya lived in bright colors, sent back bad coffee, argued with parking meters, and loved people with both hands closed around them. You don't have to marry the man, Maya said. Just eat dinner. Let someone be nice to you without assuming Sloane hired him to ruin your evening. Lena went quiet. Maya softened. I want you to have one night that belongs to you. Lena looked at the dress and did not know if that was possible. It is from Sloane, Lena said. The silence on Maya's end sharpened. Throw it away. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. But Lena knew it was tea. Sloane understood traps. She wrapped them in ribbon. Perfume compliments. Apology, she hurt you. Then offered lipstick to cover the bruise. Lena stared at the blank canvases over her desk, hating the small part of her that wanted to wear the dress. 30 minutes. Maya said at last. You go, you eat bread. You leave if he's boring. Rude married. Or weird about podcasts. Lena laughed softly, and the room felt less cold for a second. Promise me, Maya said. Lena brushed her fingers over the ivory fabric. 30 minutes, she promised. Knowing Sloane had already entered the room without being there. The dress hung from the closet door all night, glowing in the dim apartment like snow under streetlight. Lena hated that it made her look beautiful. She hated more that Sloane's voice lived so easily in her head. The roots went back too far. When they were 7, Sloane broke a glass, burst into tears, and watched their parents turn to Lena. Their father rubbed his forehead and asked why they could not just get along. After that, peace became Lena's job. Sloane could set the fire. Lena had to lower her voice so the house would not burn. The next morning, rain tapped against the window. Lena woke with her jaw aching from clenching it. She buried herself in routine, hoping work would make her feel like herself again. At the museum, Lena answered emails, logged condition notes, and tried to stay useful enough to disappear. Then Sloane appeared on the break room television. Perfect blush suit, perfect hair, perfect practiced smile. She was being interviewed as a confidence coach, speaking softly about boundaries and emotional ownership. Lena stood frozen with coffee burning her fingers. Sloane earned applause by selling the language she twisted in private. A young coworker glanced from the screen to Lena. That's your sister. Right, you two look exactly alike. Lena forced a smile. People say that. On television. Sloane laughed and said she had gotten all the spotlight genes. Everyone in the studio laughed with her. Lena looked down at her coffee, feeling the old cut open in a new place. They did not look alike where it mattered. Lena knew that, but she still felt the familiar shame of being turned into the joke. She seems fun, the coworker said. She can be, Lena answered, because old training was hard to kill. Later, Helen found her in the archive room, sorting a crate with more force than necessary. Do you want to talk about it? Helen asked. Lena shook her head. No, Helen accepted the answer. She did not pry, did not dress curiosity up as concern. Then I only say this once. You don't owe anyone a performance. Lena kept her eyes on the crate until Helen left. The sentence stayed with her all afternoon, uncomfortable and warm. By 5, she had cataloged 3 boxes and avoided every mirror in the building. That evening, Maya texted a reminder not to let Sloane live rent-free in her head. Lena went home and stood in front of the ivory dress for 10 full minutes. Then she put it on in the mirror. She saw a woman who looked softer than she felt, braver than she believed. For one dangerous second, she liked her own reflection. Then her phone buzzed. "Send me a picture," Sloane wrote. The command snapped the moment in half. Lena typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Finally, she turned the phone over. Sloane called immediately. Lena stared at the screen until it went dark. The phone rang again. She grabbed her coat and left before she could answer. It was not a dramatic rebellion. It was only a woman refusing one call. But for Lena, it felt like crossing a border. The restaurant sat high above the city. All glass, candlelight, and careful wealth. It was exactly the kind of place Sloane understood. Beautiful enough to make people behave. Expensive enough to make cruelty sound elegant. Lena arrived early and took a corner table because anxiety had trained her never to make anyone wait. Below the windows, Chicago moved through rain and traffic, bright red taillights running through the streets like veins. Lena placed her phone face down beside her water glass. It vibrated once. Then again. She did not look. Around her, people laughed with the polished ease of those who expected the room to forgive them. The empty chair across from her seemed harmless at first. Then, as minutes passed, it began to feel like evidence. The elevator doors opened, and the room changed. A group stepped out behind a dark-haired man in a black suit. He did not raise his voice or hurry. He did not need to. Servers stiffened. Conversations lowered. People pretended not to look while looking anyway. Lena recognized him from whispers. Not headlines. Nico Moretti, logistics king, nightclub owner, underworld rumor. His gaze moved across the dining room and paused on her for half a second. It felt less like being watched and more like being accurately seen. Which was worse. Lena looked away first. Her phone vibrated again. This time, irritation cut through her fear. She flipped the screen over. 6 messages from Sloane. The last one made her stomach drop. "Don't make me come down there." Lena looked toward the elevator. Suddenly cold. Reason tried to help. Sloane cared about her image. Sloane would not make a scene here. But Lena knew her sister better than Reason did. Sloane loved control more than dignity. She would break a window just to prove she still owned the room. A server approached and asked if Lena wanted to order. "I'll wait a few more minutes," Lena said, though her voice was thin. 7:35. Her date was late enough that the silence across from her had started to feel personal. Maya texted a joke about bread being a valid life partner. Lena almost smiled. Then she heard a laugh across the restaurant, bright and familiar, and her whole body went still. Sloane Whitaker walked in as if she had been invited by the room itself. Black satin dress, red lipstick, a glass of wine already in her hand. Though she had only just arrived, she looked beautiful in the sharp, cruel way that made strangers forgive her before she spoke. Rain slid down the windows behind her. Across the room, Nico turned his head. Noticing the shift before anyone else did, Sloane's eyes found Lena, and her smile widened. There was no surprise in it, no sisterly warmth, only satisfaction. Lena understood then that the dress had not been a joke. It had been a target. Sloane had chosen the color, the place, the audience. She had not come to interrupt the night. She had come to own it. Sloane crossed the room slowly, letting people notice her. "Please tell me you were not waiting for someone," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Lena's fingers tightened around her napkin. "Sloane Donnie." That voice. Sloane said with a soft laugh. "Always so wounded. It must be exhausting." Lena tried to stand, but Sloane stepped into her path. Strangers looked over with the hungry concern people show when disaster is happening to someone else. "You should have stayed home," Sloane whispered. Then she tipped the full glass of red wine down the front of Lena's ivory dress. The cold hit first. Then the humiliation. It spread across her chest. Dark and violent. While the restaurant fell into a silence, too clean to be innocent. The stain opened across the dress like a wound. Lena could not breathe. Sloane leaned close enough for her perfume to sting. "You were always better as a warning than a woman," she whispered. Something inside Lena folded. Old and automatic. Then a man's voice cut through the room. Calm, low. Dangerous. "You poured red on the wrong woman." Nico Moretti stood from his table. The silence deepened at once. Waiters froze. Guests looked down as if the tablecloths had suddenly become fascinating. Nico walked toward them with the kind of control that made anger more frightening. Not less, Lena saw Sloane's smile flicker for the first time. Nico's expression held no warmth, but it also held no performance. He was not playing savior. He looked genuinely offended by what everyone else had allowed. Sloane recovered quickly. "This is private." Nico removed his coat and draped it around Lena's shoulders, careful not to touch her skin. Lena noticed the care because care had always been rare. "It stopped being private when you made it a show," he said. Sloane's eyes sharpened. "You don't even know which twin you redefending." Nico looked at Lena. Not at Sloane. "Yes, I do." Lena should have felt grateful. Instead, she felt exposed. She did not know this man. She did not know what he wanted. When he asked, "Do you want to leave?" the question surprised her more than his power did. Not "come with me." Not "let me handle this." Just a door. Opened without force. Lena nodded once. His men moved. And a path cleared. Nico warned Sloane to step back. She obeyed, though hatred flashed across her face in the elevator. Lena stood inside his coat, shaking from cold. Shock and shame. The city dropped beneath them, floor by floor. When they reached the lobby and she saw a black car waiting outside, she stopped. Every instinct screamed trap. Nico saw it. "I'm not taking you anywhere you don't choose," he said. "That urge to run is good, keep it." The answer unsettled her because it sounded honest. He offered a room at his club where she could change, then a ride wherever she wanted. "Why?" Lena asked. Nico looked back toward the restaurant, jaw tight, because everyone in that room watched. The words landed harder than comfort would have. The club was hidden beneath a quiet building downtown. Jazz moved through the air, low and smoky. Men at the door stepped aside for Nico without question. That should have frightened Lena. And it did. But what frightened her more was how relieved she felt to be away from the restaurant. In a private room. A woman named Grace waited with fresh clothes, sharp eyes, and a face that suggested she had seen worse than ruined silk. Nico stayed outside the door. "You don't have to guard it," Lena said. "I'm not guarding you from leaving," he answered. "I'm keeping everyone else out." Lena did not know what to do with that. She changed slowly, leaving the stained dress on a chair like evidence from a crime scene. Grace made a dry joke about rich women weaponizing beverages, and Lena laughed once, cracked and surprised. The sound almost hurt when she came out. Nico asked whether Sloane had hurt her anywhere else. Lena stiffened. "I'm not broken, I say you were. You implied it, no," he said. "I asked because people trained not to make a sound often bleed quietly." The words struck too close. Lena's fear turned quickly into anger. "Do not analyze me for the first time that night." Nico made a mistake. His mouth tightened as if he wanted to argue. Then he stopped himself. "You rewrite." He arranged a ride and did not ask for her number. Still, he stood in the rain until the car pulled away. The next morning, reality returned with teeth. Lena woke to 37 missed calls and a wall of messages from Sloane. The story had already been rewritten. Lena had embarrassed the family. Nico had pitied her. Sloane had only tried to prevent a disaster. The voicemail was worse. Sloane's voice was soft, wounded, almost tender. "Powerful men collect broken things," she said. "They look interesting for a while, then leave them on a shelf." Lena sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the poison under the sweetness. But this time she heard something different beneath Sloane's control. Fear, not fear for Lena. Fear of losing her place above her. Lena deleted the voicemail, then recovered it immediately, because proof suddenly mattered more than pride. Maya arrived with coffee, bagels, fury, and a plan to commit several crimes she had clearly thought through on the train. She found Nico's coat hanging over a chair and stopped. Of course he has a dramatic coat. Lena told her what happened. When she reached the part where Nico asked if she wanted to leave, Maya's expression shifted. The jokes faded. He asked yes. And waited. Lena nodded. Maya sat down beside her. That matters. For 2 days. Lena kept the coat and invented reasons not to return it. It was only wool and expensive lining. It was also the first thing anyone had placed around her without using it to claim her. She hated how much that mattered. Lena recognized Nico's enforcer the moment she opened her door. He looked like a locked gate in human form. Miss Whitaker, he said. She kept the chain on. How did you find me? Reservation records. Mateo answered. Too smoothly. It was meant to sound harmless. It did not. He handed her a garment bag. Inside was the ivory dress. The stain remained, faded into a brownish-red bruise. A note from Nico came with it. Return my coat only if you want to see me again. Maya read it over Lena's shoulder. That is annoyingly romantic. Lena stared at the dress. Or strategic. Maybe both. Maya said. Lena folded the note once. Then twice. Some questions did not feel like questions until they were already inside your hands. The next afternoon. Lena walked into Nico's logistics building, carrying his coat over one arm. The lobby smelled of polished stone, rain and money that had learned to keep quiet. The receptionist sent her upstairs immediately, which frightened Lena more than being stopped would have. Nico's office was not what she expected. No gold, no vulgar trophies, just dark wood. Clean lines. And one large painting of a storm over black water. Nico stood when she entered. He did not look surprised. That irritated her. Do you always know when people are coming? She asked. Usually, that's not comforting. His mouth twitched. It wasn't meant to be. The honesty made her more cautious. Not less, she set the coat on a chair between them. Did you want to see me again? Nico asked. Lena looked at the coat instead of him. I wanted to return what wasn't mine. That's not an answer. That's the one I am giving. His faint smile disappeared, and for a moment she saw the man other people feared. He was used to direct answers. He was used to getting them. Lena moved her gaze to the painting. That is too decorative. No, it's as lonely. Most people say expensive. Most people are afraid of quiet things. Nico studied her more closely. Lena wished she had said less. What do you see? He asked. She looked at the black water. Grief, the room changed around that word. Nico's face closed. But not before she saw it land. Nico recovered first. Your sister is not just cruel. Lena stiffened. You don't know her. I know people who need control more than they need air. And what do you need? She asked. Order, that's control with better manners. This time his smile was real. Quick and unwilling. Before either of them could say more, Mateo entered. There's a visitor downstairs. Nico's expression hardened. Who? Sloane Whitaker. Lena felt the room tilt. On the security feed. Sloane stood in the lobby wearing a beige coat and pearl earrings. Her hair styled softer than usual. She touched her throat in a nervous gesture Lena recognized with a jolt. It was hers. Sloane had stolen it from her body and put it on like jewelry. She's copying me, Lena whispered. The violation felt stranger than the wine. More intimate somehow. Nico watched the screen. Then turned to her. You can wait in another room. No, the answer surprised them both. Nico looked as if he wanted to argue. Then he stepped back. Your choice. When Sloane entered, she wore Lena's softness without any of Lena's fear. Her voice trembled in all the right places. She apologized to Nico first, which told Lena everything. I was emotional, Sloane said. Lena and I have always had a complicated bond. Nico leaned against his desk. Strange, you came to apologize to me. But she's the one you humiliated. Sloane's eyes flicked to Lena, and the sweetness thinned. I came because I am worried about my sister, Sloane said. She is sensitive. She always has been. She can confuse attention with safety. Lena felt the old script pulling at her. Too sensitive. Too dramatic. Too fragile. Nico watched Sloane's body more than her face. Real remorse usually bends the shoulders. He said, yours came in expecting applause. Sloane's expression cracked. You don't know anything about us. Lena heard herself speak before fear could stop her. Then tell him. What do you see when you look at me? For a second. The office disappeared. They were children again. Standing beside broken glass while Sloane cried, and Lena took the blame. Sloane smiled. I see the same embarrassing mistake you've always been. The answer was ugly. It was also honest. Nico ended it. Enough. Sloane turned to him. Wounded again. But the act had lost its shine. You should be careful, she said. Lena has a way of making people feel responsible for her. Lena waited for the sentence to crush her. It did not. It only made her tired. When Sloane left, her hands were shaking. Lena had imagined that seeing her sister shaken would feel like victory. Instead, she felt used. At the elevator, anger finally rose clear and clean. You brought her up here to expose her. Nico did not deny it. Yes, with me in the room. Yes, like evidence. His jaw tightened. The elevator opened. He could have defended himself. Instead, he said, You rewrite. Lena expected excuses. Men like Nico had whole rooms full of them. He offered none. I crossed a line and called it protection, he said. That was convenient for me. The apology was too clean. And that made it harder to hate. Try harder next time. Lena said, I will. The elevator doors closed before she could answer. That evening, all she wanted was quiet. But when she reached her apartment, the door was unlatched. Open just enough to show darkness inside. Her stomach dropped. She pushed it with 2 fingers. The room looked almost normal at first. Nothing valuable had been taken. That made it worse. Her books had been arranged by color across the floor. Careful and wrong. As if someone had touched her mind instead of her furniture. Cabinets hung open. Drawers had been pulled out and pushed back in, not emptied, just violated. Then Lena saw her desk. Her sketchbook lay under the lamp, every page torn out. In red lipstick, someone had written, He will learn which twin deserves to be loved. For a moment, Lena could only hear her own breathing. Then she called Nico. She was here, she said. Her voice did not shake, and that scared her. Silence filled the line. Leave the apartment. No, Lena. No, I am done running through rooms she has already touched. His voice lowered. Open the door. A heavy knock sounded at that exact second. Lena turned. Matteo stood outside, one hand near his weapon, eyes already scanning the hallway. Matteo entered like a man reading a crime scene. He did not ask foolish questions. He photographed the door, the books, the lipstick, the torn sketchbook. Lena stared at the message. He will learn which twin deserves to be loved. From a distance. It might have sounded theatrical. In that room, written in Lena's own lipstick. It felt like a hand closing around her throat. Sloane had entered her home, touched her things, chosen a color Lena had once bought to feel pretty, and turned it into a threat. That was her talent. She did not always destroy what mattered. Sometimes she simply rearranged it until Lena could not trust it anymore. The apartment, once cramped but safe, now felt like a room in someone else's house. Lena's knees gave out before she could stop them. Matteo did not grab her. He offered his arm and waited. She took it, hated needing it, and pulled away as soon as she could. I'm fine. Standing upright is not the same as fine, he said. 12 minutes later, Nico arrived. Lena had watched the clock the whole time, clinging to each minute as proof that time was still moving. He did not storm in. That would have been easier to resent. He entered with controlled violence sealed behind his eyes. Did she touch you? No, cameras. Matteo answered. Looped, someone replaced the live feed with old footage. Nico's face went colder. Sloane didn't do that alone. Money can, Lena said. Nico looked at her, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. I want to call the police. She expected resistance. His world did not seem built for paperwork and patrol cars. But Nico only nodded. Then call them. 2 officers arrived an hour later, tired and uneasy. Their eyes kept drifting to Nico, then away from him. They asked what had been stolen. My sketchbook. Lena said. Anything of monetary value. One officer asked. Lena almost laughed. He wrote down no forced entry. Possible family dispute. Complicated history. Family dispute. The phrase shrank everything. The torn pages. The threat. The fear crawling under her skin. Nico stood in the corner like a shadow, silent by visible effort. Lena pointed to the lipstick on the desk. That is a threat, the officer said they would document it. Document. The word sounded cold enough to freeze the room. After they left, the apartment felt more dangerous than before, as if official indifference had given Sloane permission to return. You can stay here, Nico said. No one of my properties, no. His jaw tightened. The old Nico surfaced for half a second. The man used to obedience. Lena saw it and stepped back. He saw her see it. His voice changed. A hotel. Maya S. Anywhere not here. She wanted to refuse just because he was right. That was one of the worst leftovers of control. Even care could sound like a command. At last she nodded. Maya S. Mateo will drive. I can take a cab. No, the word came too fast. Too sharp. Lena's eyes narrowed. Nico closed his mouth, forced a breath through his nose, and tried again. Please, that one word changed the room. Not enough to make everything safe, but enough to make her agree. Maya opened her door in pajamas in fury, pulling Lena into a hug so tight it almost hurt. I should have known. Maya whispered. I hid most of it. Lena said. The admission tasted bitter. Maya apologized for the blind date. But Lena shook her head. The date had only been scenery. Sloane would have found another stage. She always did. Lena almost apologized for making Maya cry, then stopped. That tiny silence felt like progress. The museum email came at 9:12 the next morning. It was written in clean, careful language. Donor confidence, pending review. Administrative leave. Helen called 1 minute later. Her voice was controlled, which told Lena how angry she was. Anonymous complaints had arrived overnight. Screenshots showed Lena supposedly mishandling donor records. Helen knew they were fake. But the museum had already locked Lena out of the collection. Lena sat at Maya's kitchen table and felt the last safe place in her life being boarded shut. Sloane did not understand the museum. She understood attention, applause, image. She did not understand loving fragile things because they deserved to last. That was why this hurt. Sloane had reached into a place she never respected and still managed to poison it. Maya paced, already muttering about lawyers. Lena stared at a message from an unknown number. You never should have brought him into this. Attached was a photo of her entering Nico's office. Her stomach went cold. Another message appeared before she could breathe. The museum was only the first door. Lena called Nico. He answered immediately. I know about the museum. You knew and didn't tell me. I was confirming facts. That sounds better than saying you decided what I could handle. Silence, then Nico said. You rewrite. She almost hated him for learning so quickly. I want the truth. All of it. He gave her an address in the South Loop. It was an old theater behind a fading marquee, the kind of place built for performance. Inside, the lobby smelled of dust, rain, and old velvet. Grace sat at a table crowded with laptops. She wasted no time. Fake emails, altered screenshots, payment trails hidden through shell accounts. Sloane had built a case strong enough to frighten institutions and sloppy enough to reveal arrogance. Grace opened a file and showed Lena a photograph. Brent Keller, private investigator, former cop, current parasite. Lena did not recognize him. Then Grace opened another folder. Photos filled the screen. Lena leaving work. Lena at her apartment. Lena buying coffee. Lena outside the restaurant days before the wine. Then one more image loaded. Lena sleeping near her window, taken through a gap in the curtains. The room seemed to drop away beneath her. How long? Lena asked. Grace's face softened in a way that frightened her. 3 weeks, we can prove. Maybe longer. Nico stepped forward by instinct, then stopped himself and stayed where he was. Lena noticed. She also noticed how much he wanted not to stay there. She hired him before the restaurant, Lena said. Her voice sounded far away. Before the dress. Grace nodded. The room tilted. Sloane had not lost control. She had chosen the timing. The dress. The witnesses. then smiled while Lena drowned in shame. Grace clicked into another file. There's more. Keller has been asking about your building's back entrance. Nico's voice lowered. When Grace looked at the screen. Tonight, for the first time. Lena understood that Sloane was not done escalating. If you hurt him, Sloane becomes the victim, Lena said before Nico could speak. She'll cry on camera and say I fell in with criminals. Nico's eyes did not move from hers. He stalked you. I know he took pictures of you sleeping. I know, and you want paperwork. I want evidence, she said, though her voice shook now. Grace leaned back with something like approval. Evidence is less satisfying, but much harder to bury. Lena almost smiled. That night, Maya arrived with takeout and one hand on her hip, informing Nico that if Lena got hurt because of his ego, she would become a problem even organized crime could not budget for. Nico looked at Maya, then at Lena. Understood, he said. It was the first time Lena saw Maya almost like him. Later, after Maya left, Lena found Nico in the theater's small kitchen, making coffee he did not seem to want without his jacket. He looked less like armor, and more like a man who had not slept in years. On the counter stood a framed photo of a girl with his dark eyes and stubborn chin. My sister, he said before Lena asked Alessia. His thumb touched the frame. She was 19, loud, impossible. She sang badly and thought she sang well. Lena waited. Nico's voice stayed even, but something in it had cracked. Alessia had trusted a man Nico did not bother to fear. The signs came slowly, a fading bruise, shorter calls. No more singing in the background. Nico had been busy becoming feared by enemies outside his home. By the time Nico understood, Alessia had already left Chicago. 6 years later, she still called only on birthdays. I thought power meant no one could touch what was mine, he said. I was wrong. Lena looked at the photograph, then at him. It explained some things, not everything. Grief did not excuse control. It only gave it a name. Silence is never peace, Nico said. Sometimes it is just someone disappearing. Lena knew that kind of silence too well. Rain tapped against the window. Her reflection hovered over the dark glass, wearing Sloane's face and Lena's exhaustion. Nico stood behind her, close but not touching. Look at yourself, he said. She almost snapped at him. Then she realized he was not ordering her. He was asking. At first all Lena saw was Sloane. Same mouth. Same cheekbones. Same eyes used by another person as a weapon. Then slowly, the image separated. Her eyes were tired. But they were hers. Her face had been borrowed. Mocked, copied, blamed, but it had never stopped belonging to her. Nico watched her reflection. There you are, he said. The softness in his voice frightened her almost as much as his violence. She wanted to step closer. She wanted to run. I don't know what I feel, she admitted. I don't know if it's freedom, fear, or just relief that someone finally looked. Nico's expression shifted. There was desire there. Yes, but restraint too. Then we don't name it yet, he said, for once. No one demanded an answer from her. Morning brought Sloane's next performance. She posted a video in soft light. Face bare enough to seem brave, but not bare enough to be real. Her voice trembled as she described Lena as fragile, confused, manipulated by a dangerous man. She begged her sister to come home. She called control of and made it sound tender. By noon, strangers had arrived in Lena's comments. Some cruel, some worried. The cruel ones were almost easier. The kind ones hurt because they believed Sloane's beautiful lie. Then the video cut to an old childhood photo of the twins in matching dresses. Sloane had weaponized even that. Lena stared at the screen, sickened by how easily the past could be edited into a lie. Grace needed the museum's access logs to prove the forged emails. Nico hated the plan. He did not bother hiding it. I don't like you walking into open space. I don't like being stalked, Lena said. We all suffer. His mouth almost moved toward a smile, then failed. Matteo followed at a distance. The underground garage smelled of wet concrete and exhaust. Lena stepped out with her keys threaded between her fingers. The lights flickered once. Then again. Brent Keller emerged from behind a pillar. Your sister wants to talk, he said. Another man moved behind her. The lie was clumsy, but the danger was not. Lena ran. Keller grabbed her coat. She drove her elbow back. The second man caught her wrist, and she bit him until she tasted blood. A van door slid open. Keller cursed. Lena kicked twisted, fought with a rage she had been storing for years. Then a punch to her ribs turned the world white. They shoved her toward the van. Headlights tore through the garage. An SUV slammed into the side of the vehicle hard enough to scream metal. Mateo stepped out, gun drawn, face calm as winter. Keller reached for his weapon. Mateo fired once. Keller dropped. The other man ran. Lena collapsed onto the concrete, broken glass slicing her palm. Keller's phone skidded near her. She grabbed it before anyone else could. A text from Sloane glowed on the screen. Scare her. Make her leave. Don't let Nico keep what is mine. Lena held the phone so tightly blood ran over the edge. Nico arrived minutes later with vengeance in his eyes. Lena knew that look now. It was not protection yet. It was punishment searching for a target. Stop, she said. He froze because her voice left no room. She lifted Keller's phone. We have proof. Nico looked at the blood on her hand, then at the screen. And something in him cracked. You re-hurt. And she finally made a mistake. Under the flickering lights, Lena felt the old shape of herself loosen. She was not waiting to be rescued. She was holding the evidence. By midnight, Keller was in custody and already trying to save himself. Grace mirrored the phone before procedure could swallow anything important. Messages, payments, fake accounts, surveillance photos. Sloane's fingerprints were everywhere. The evidence covered the table in the theater like pieces of a broken mirror. Nico stood by the window, hands still faintly marked by someone else's blood. Jaw set so hard it looked painful. Lena sat while Grace cleaned the cut in her palm. Antiseptic burned. Sharp and honest. She welcomed it. I am tired, Lena said, of surviving, because luck happened to turn its head. Nico told her to rest. She almost laughed. I should have rested 20 years ago. Grace looked up from the laptop. The evidence is strong. But Sloane can still twist it. She can say she hired Keller because she was afraid for you. Maya, who had arrived pale and furious, swore under her breath. Lena already knew Grace was right. Sloane had made a career out of turning poison into concern. Nico did not say his solution aloud. He did not have to. A dark car. A quiet disappearance. A problem solved in a language he knew too well. Lena saw it pass through his eyes and felt the temptation of it. That was what frightened her. Not his darkness, but the small, exhausted part of herself that wanted to borrow it. No, she said. Nico looked at her. I didn't speak. You did need to. The silence between them sharpened. If she disappears, she becomes a martyr. If you destroy her in the dark, she wins the story. Nico's eyes lowered. He knew she was right. He hated it. Then what do you want? He asked. Lena stood slowly. Ribs aching. Hand throbbing. I want witnesses. Lena's plan was simple because Sloane's weakness was simple. Pride. She needs to believe she has me cornered. Lena said. She needs a stage. Grace's smile turned sharp. Hidden cameras. Live legal witnesses. Police listening. Mateo frowned. So is hiding. Nico watched Lena as if seeing a new version of her arrive in the room. You understand what she might do. Yes, and if she touches you. Then you wait unless I give the signal. His expression went hard. No, Lena stepped closer. That is not your decision. The old instinct in him rose again. Fierce and immediate. Then he forced it down. I don't know how to watch someone hurt you, he said, then learn. Lena answered. By dawn, the trap was built around Nico's glass house on Lake Michigan. In daylight, the house reflected the lake. At night, it glowed like something too beautiful to trust. Reinforced glass. Quiet security. Rooms that revealed more than they hid. Lena sent the bait just after sunrise. I am leaving Chicago. I want to talk before I go. 11 minutes passed before Sloane answered. Come alone. Lena sent the address. A second message followed almost at once. If he is there, I ruin you both. Nico found Lena in the kitchen, staring at the screen. Last chance to walk away. Walking away only works when the person stops following. He had no answer for that. Then to Lena's surprise, Nico knelt in front of her. Not theatrically. Not to win anything. He lowered himself so she would not have to look up at him. If she touches you, Nico said, I will want to break my word. I know I may fail. Lena studied him. That honesty mattered more than confidence would have. Then put people around you who want to let you. Nico's jaw worked once. Outside, the lake struck the rocks. Hard and restless. If I say the safe word, you come in, Lena said. If I drop the glass, you come in. If I stop standing, you come in. Until then, you wait. His eyes closed briefly. A man who could command violence without blinking looked undone by restraint. Lena touched his cheek. I do need to be rescued from this. I need to finish it. When he opened his eyes, the fight had not left him. But he nodded. In the surveillance room, Grace wired the final feeds. An attorney watched the secure feed. Detectives sat outside in an unmarked car. Every angle was covered. Lena went upstairs to change. The red dress waited on the bed. Maya had brought it and hated it on principle. It was deep crimson, simple, alive. You don't have to wear a symbol. Maya said, I know, then why are you wearing it? Lena touched the fabric, because she turned red into humiliation. I want it back. Maya's face tightened, but she helped zip the dress. Lena tried pinning her hair up, then let it fall in the mirror. Sloane's face appeared for half a second before Lena's own expression separated from it. Same features, different woman. Maya's eyes filled. Don't cry. I am not crying. I am reflecting light aggressively. Lena laughed for the first time that day. Downstairs, Nico waited near the glass wall. When he saw the red dress, his expression did not soften. It deepened. Not desire first. Away maybe. Fear, definitely. Are you sure? He asked. Lena appreciated that he still asked, even after everything. Yes, he reviewed the safe word. The signal. The glass. You already told me. I'm telling myself. That answer quieted her. He stepped closer, then stopped short of touching her. Another learned restraint. I'll be in the next room. He said, I know. I will hate every second. Good, Lena said. Then you will remember it. He left for the surveillance room. Lena stood alone as the windows darkened and turned into mirrors. Headlights cut through the rain. Sloane stepped out in a flawless white coat, dressed like innocence arriving late. Her makeup was soft, her hair loose. Every detail chosen to look wounded rather than prepared. Mateo opened the door without warmth. Sloane walked into the glass room, heels sharp against the floor, and stopped for the smallest fraction of a second when she saw Lena in red. That hesitation was enough. Lena had surprised her. Bold choice. Sloane said, I thought you hated attention. I hated yours. Sloane's smile tightened. Her eyes moved around the room, searching for cameras. Exit's advantage. Manipulators are calm only when they know the script. Lena watched Sloane realize the room was not bending around her. For the first time, Sloane looked uncertain. Sloane removed her coat, revealing a cream dress that made her look almost bridal. She sat without being invited. So this is the dramatic goodbye, she asked. Lena kept her bandaged hand beneath the table. I wanted to understand what you want. I want my sister back. No, Lena said. You want your shadow back. Sloane gave a patient sigh. The one she used when preparing to make Lena feel unreasonable. You always do this. Turn concern into cruelty. Brent Keller was concern. For 1 second. Sloane blinked. The performance slipped. Then she recovered. I hired someone because you were unstable and involved with a dangerous man. In the surveillance room. Grace leaned closer to the screen. Nico did not move. You gave him my schedule, Lena said. You had him follow me. To make sure you were safe. He attacked me in a garage. Sloane's face cooled. Desperate men do desperate things. That is my fault. You told him to scare me. The room went still. Sloane's eyes sharpened at the wording. She knew there was a line. And she was looking for it. You should have been scared, she said at last. That man was changing you. Nico. Sloane said his name like something bitter. He looked at you once, and suddenly you thought you were someone. There it was. Not fear, not concern, Resentment. Lena felt her heartbeat steady. Sloane had not come to save her. She had come to put her back. If I leave Chicago, Lena asked, if I walk away from the museum, from Nico, from all of this, will you stop? Sloane smiled slowly. You make everything so tragic. I'm asking you to be realistic. You were never built for this life, the attention, the museum, him. Even being my sister was too much for you being. Your sister wasn't pressure, Lena said. It was a prison. The slap cracked through the room. In surveillance, Nico rose so fast his chair hit the floor. Mateo caught his arm. Move, Nico growled. Grace kept her eyes on the screen. She is still standing. Lena touched her burning cheek and stayed upright. Pain spread across her skin, but it did not swallow her. Sloane's breathing had changed. She had finally become herself. That look. Sloane snapped. That poor, wounded little stare. Do you know what it was like growing up next to you? Everyone thought you were sweet, quiet, special in that fragile way. I was the difficult one, the loud one. You just stood there, and people wanted to protect you. Lena heard the child inside the woman, but the bruise on her cheek kept her from softening. You stole my scholarship night, she said. You kissed Daniel and let me think he chose you. You lied about my painting. You sent fake emails to my job. You put a tracker in my purse. I needed to know where you were. You hired Brent. I needed to scare you. The confession hung in the air. Sloane heard it too late. Lena did not move. In her earpiece, Grace whispered, We got it. Sloane stepped closer, perfume crowding the air. You went to stay where you belonged. There it was. Clear, small, ugly. It had never been love. It had been position. Sloane needed Lena beneath her so her own life would feel larger. For the first time. Lena did not see some untouchable monster. She saw a frightened woman who had spent years mistaking attention for worth. You don't love me, Lena said. You think love means letting someone ruin herself? Sloane demanded. No, Lena said. I think love doesn't need someone else to disappear. Rage flashed through Sloane's face. She reached into her purse and pulled out a silver drive. You still don't understand how much I can take from you. Sloane held the drive like a weapon. Edited videos. Private files. Enough to make Nico look like he groomed you. Enough to make you look unstable forever. Lena's stomach tightened. But she stayed still. You'd ruin us both. I survive better than you, Sloane said. I always have. Her smile returned. Thin and sharp. You make a public statement. You'll say you were confused. You'll say I saved you from a dangerous man. Nico will pay for the damage he caused. In the surveillance room, Nico went dangerously quiet. And if I don tea? Lena asked. Sloane leaned in. Then I bury you wearing your own face. Outside, the lake slammed against the rocks. Lena thought of the wine, the torn sketchbook, the garage floor, the blood drying under her bandage. Then Lena smiled, not because she was brave enough to feel no fear, because she was afraid and still standing. Thank you, she said softly. Sloane frowned. For what? Red and blue lights washed over the glass as police cruisers rolled up the drive. For doing it where everyone could finally hear you. Sloane's face emptied. No detectives entered. Followed by Mateo and Grace, carrying her laptop with the satisfied look of a woman who had been waiting all night to ruin someone's performance. Nico came in last. His eyes went straight to the red mark on Lena's cheek. His hands clenched, but he did not move until Lena gave the smallest nod. Only then did he cross the room. This time he remembered whose moment it was. Sloane backed away. This is illegal. You can record me. Grace looked up. Illinois law is complicated. Extortion in a house full of attorneys listening live is less complicated. A detective stepped forward. Sloane Whitaker. You re-under arrest. Sloane laughed. High and wild. For what? Caring about my sister. The detective listed the charges. Stalking, extortion, assault, conspiracy. With every word, another layer of Sloane's performance fell away. The soft victim vanished. The polished coach vanished. The sister remained, raw and furious. Tell them. Sloane begged suddenly. Lena, tell them this is a misunderstanding. She used the old voice. The one that had always made Lena feel responsible for both of them. This time, Lena heard it as a chain. Not a plea. No, Lena said. The word came out quiet. But it held. Sloane stared as if she had misheard. No, Lena repeated. I'm not softening what you did. I'm not translating your violence into concern so you can sleep. Hatred burned through Sloane's tears. You think he loves you? She spat, looking at Nico. You think that makes you chosen? Lena glanced at Nico. He stood back, far enough to leave the answer to her. I'm not free because he saw me. Lena said, I'm free because I finally saw myself. Sloane lunged. Matteo caught her easily, for the first time. She looked small. Not because the room had defeated her, but because no one was kneeling to her anymore. You never know who you are without me. Sloane hissed. That's the first thing I'm going to learn. Lena said. Sloane was taken into the cold night, police lights flashing across her face, stripping it down to rage. Afterward, the glass house emptied quickly. Statements were taken. Files were copied. Grace sealed the recordings before anyone could question them. Maya burst in like a storm and hugged Lena so hard Nico took one step forward before stopping himself. Maya cursed with enough creativity to make even Grace pause. When the house finally quieted, Nico stood beside Lena at the window. The black lake moved under the rain. I almost came in too soon, he admitted. Lena looked at their reflections in the glass. I know I am not sorry for wanting to. I didn't ask you to stop wanting, she said. I asked you to let me stand. By morning, Chicago knew her name, and the truth still had teeth. Headlines sharpened her life into phrases. Twin sister arrested in blackmail plot. Beauty consultant accused in stalking scandal. Then Sloane's lawyer released a statement calling it a family tragedy, claiming Lena had been influenced by dangerous people. Worse, the silver drive Sloane had waved in the glass house was missing from the evidence list. Lena sat at Maya's kitchen table wearing one of Nico's oversized sweaters, her phone buzzing nonstop against the wood. Proof had not made the world gentle. It had only made the lies louder. Maya powered the phone off. Modern civilization can choke for an hour. Lena stared at the blank screen. What if that drive gets out? Maya's face hardened. Then we burn the lie down with facts. Outside, life kept moving in its ordinary, almost insulting way. Delivery trucks, wet sidewalks, neighbors carrying coffee. Trauma never stopped the world. Lena rubbed her bandaged palm. I'm tired of being the fragile twin. Then daunt to be. Maya said. Everyone will still call me that. Let them run out of breath. A tired laugh slipped out of Lena. Then came a knock at the door. Maya stood at once. If that's a reporter. I am choosing violence. But Lena already knew who it was. Nico stood in the hallway wearing a dark overcoat. Alone, no guards visible. No dramatic entrance. Maya crossed her arms. She slept 3 hours. She needs peace, not dominance in a better coat. Nico nodded. Then I'll be quiet. Maya narrowed her eyes, suspicious of any man who adapted too quickly. Lena stepped aside. It's okay. Maya moved, but left the bedroom door open. A boundary. Everyone saw it. No one challenged it. Under the harsh kitchen light, Nico looked tired, not weak, human. He placed a folder on the table. Evidence summaries. A protective order. Court dates. Then he hesitated. Helen Marsh called. He said Lena's breath caught. She wanted to know if speaking with you would overwhelm you. Her words. Helen had asked. She had not forced her way in. Lena looked down at the folder to hide the sting in her eyes. What did you say? That it was your choice. Maya, standing near the sink, looked briefly satisfied. Nico's gaze moved to Lena's bandaged palm. He wanted to reach for it. She saw the restraint, and for once it did not feel like distance. There's more, he said. Lena stiffened. Nico noticed immediately and sat down across from her, bringing himself to eye level. Grace found a partial upload scheduled from one of Sloane's burner accounts. The drive wasn't the only copy. Lena went cold. How long? 26 hours. Unless we kill it. Can you? Yes, he said then. Before she could react, he added, not the way I would have done it before. The honesty was uncomfortable. Part of Lena wanted the world silenced. Part of her feared what it would cost. That worries me, she said. It should. I wouldn't threaten reporters for you, Nico said. I may imagine it vividly, Maya muttered. Growth, I guess. Lena almost smiled. Then she asked about Sloane. Nico told her there would be court battles and lies, but the recordings were strong. And Grace was tracing the upload through Keller's accounts. Lena waited for relief. It did not come. Her chest only felt hollow, like a room after shouting stops. You don't look relieved, Nico said. Lena watched rain crawl down the window. She is still my sister. The words embarrassed her. After everything. They should have felt like betrayal. Instead, they felt like grief. Part of me hates her, Lena said. Part of me remembers sharing a room with her during thunderstorms. Nico did not tell her what Sloane deserved. He only said grief. After a long silence, Lena said the truth she had been afraid to say. I can stay in Chicago right now. Nico absorbed it without flinching. I have a house in Carmel by the Sea. Small, private. No cameras inside. No men at the door. Just a key. Lena studied him. Are you coming? No, a month earlier. The word would have sounded like rejection. Now she heard the restraint inside it. Nico, who solved problems by tightening his grip, was choosing to open his hand. He placed a brass key on the table. No guards unless you ask. No calls unless you answer. No tracking. That must be painful for you. His mouth curved faintly. You enjoy my suffering. I enjoy proof that you can learn. His gaze softened, tired and serious. I love you, he said, quietly enough that the room did not have to carry it if she did not want it to. Lena did not answer, she only picked up the key. For once, silence did not feel like surrender. Carmel by the Sea smelled of salt, cypress, and wood smoke. The house was not marble or glass. It had old wooden floors, wide windows, worn furniture, and a porch facing the Pacific. The first night, Lena slept 14 hours. The second night, she woke at 3 a.m. and cried on the kitchen floor so hard she frightened herself. There was no single reason. There were all the reasons: Sloane, the museum, the garage, the dress, the drive still hanging over her like a blade. The years of swallowing words until they turned heavy inside her. No one came running. No one called her dramatic. The crying stopped only when it was finished. In the morning, she made coffee with shaking hands and watched the ocean throw itself against the rocks without apology. Packages arrived over the next few days. Clothes from Maya. Books from Helen. Art supplies from Nico. Canvases, brushes. Tubes of paint. 3 shades of red. Lena stood over the box for a long time, then carried everything to the sunroom and shut the door. For a week, she did not paint. She walked the cliffs, bought bread from a bakery that learned her name, and ignored most calls. Nico texted once every morning. Court update. Rain in Chicago. Grace stopped the upload. A dog outside the theater tried to bite Mateo and lost morally. Every message ended the same way. No reply needed. On the 8th day, Lena opened the sunroom door. The blank canvas faced her like a dare. She stood there for 20 minutes before uncapping a tube of red paint. Her hand trembled. This time she did not step away. She squeezed 1 drop onto the palette. The color looked alive. Wine blood. Police lights. The dress. Her cheek after Sloane's slap. Her own pulse. She dragged 1 vertical line down the canvas. It was crooked. Uneven, real. The next morning, she painted another line. Then the curve of a hand. Not delicate. Not museum perfect. A hand reaching out of grayness. Angry enough to exist. Weeks passed in fragments. Some days she painted until her wrist cramped. Some days she sat on the floor and hated every canvas. But she kept opening the door. The paintings did not heal her in a clean, pretty way. Some days they made her worse. She scraped color away until the canvas tore. She painted a girl with braided hair and no mouth. She painted a woman standing before black water. She painted red over white until the first color could not be erased, but also could not control the whole picture. Then Maya came to visit with groceries, gossip, and a dramatic hatred of the spotless kitchen. When she found the sunroom, she stopped talking. Canvases leaned against every wall. Some were violent. Some were still enough to hurt. Maya cried silently. Lena tried to joke. I may have overdone the red. Maya shook her head. No, I think you finally used enough. That night, Lena admitted she missed Nico. He told me he loved me, Lena said. And I said nothing. Maya poured cheap wine into 2 mugs because the house had no proper glasses. Good, Lena turned. Maya shrugged. You don't owe anyone a sentence before it's true. Nico came to California a month later. He called first and asked permission, which made Lena smile before she could stop herself. He arrived at exactly 6 with coffee cake from the local bookstore cafe. No flowers. No speech. No performance. He stood on the porch like a dangerous man trying very hard not to loom. Lena let him in. The house seemed to wake around him. Nico noticed everything. Books by the window. Paint on her sleeve. The small scar forming across her palm. Then he saw the sunroom. Lena's nerves rose fast. These paintings were not things that had happened to her. They were choices she had pulled from a place she could barely name. Nico walked slowly among them. He stopped before the woman facing black water. She's turning, he said. Lena stood beside him. Maybe. Toward what I don't know yet. Many men would have tried to turn that into an answer. Nico did not, he said, then it's honest. They cooked badly that evening. Nico chopped vegetables with terrifying precision, while Lena burned garlic and accused him of judging the pan. Later they walked beside the water. Fog thinned over the Pacific, leaving the sky bruised purple and gold. Nico kept his hands in his coat pockets. Lena noticed the restraint because she knew what it cost him. You can hold my hand, she said. He looked at her. Lena, may I hold your hand? The question was almost too formal. And exactly right. She slid her fingers into his. His grip was warm and steady. It did not cage her. It simply stayed. I missed you, Nico said. He did not pull the words out of her in return. That mattered. Lena looked at the waves. I'm afraid there are traps in being loved. There can be, he said. She appreciated that he did not lie. I want to protect you from every possible wound, he admitted. I know that is in love. Not by itself. The wind moved through her hair. He still looked dangerous. That would never fully leave him. But beside the ocean, he looked like a man trying to master himself. Lena kissed him because no one was watching. No one was running. And she wanted to. Nico froze for half a second, then placed his hand carefully at her waist. The kiss deepened without becoming a claim. I love you, he whispered afterward, asking nothing with it. Lena rested her forehead against his. I'm not ready to say it. I know, but what I feel is real. Then we start there. 4 months later, Sloan faced court in Chicago. By then Lena had moved back, but not into the old apartment. Maya packed what could be saved and threw away what Lena could not bear to touch. Nico hired movers and accepted Maya's inspection of all of them, like a man submitting to a hostile government audit. Lena's new place was smaller, brighter, and hers. Morning light fell across fresh canvases. When the museum offered her old job back, she did not rush into gratitude. She asked for part-time hours, and for the first time, she protected her art. In the courtroom, Sloan wore flat gray. Without her sharp colors and careful glow, she looked disturbingly ordinary. Lena sat between Maya and Nico, with Helen, Grace, and Mateo behind them. Sloan did not meet her eyes. Lawyer spoke in polished phrases. Psychological distress. Public safety. Pattern of behavior. Years of harm became paperwork. The stopped upload had been added to the case, and Keller had signed a statement naming Sloan. Still, when the judge handed down the custodial sentence, Lena waited for relief to arrive. It did not. There was only a hollow silence, like the space after a glass breaks. As officers moved toward Sloan, she finally turned. You think this makes you special? Sloan spat. Nico's hand stayed still on the bench between them. He had learned not to step into every silence. Lena stood. The courtroom seemed to narrow around her for a second. She saw everything at once. Childhood bedrooms. Broken glass. The restaurant. The garage. The glass house. Sloane's face in all of them. No, Lena said. Sloane's mouth twisted. Lena looked at her sister and finished the sentence. Free Sloane's expression changed. Not into remorse, but into rage at being left behind. Officers led her away. Maya gripped Lena's hand. Nico sat beside her in silence. That was enough. Lena did not feel healed. She felt unchained. There was a difference. And for now, it was enough. By late spring, Lena opened her first exhibition in a quiet gallery. She called it The Woman in the Frame. Not a title about trauma. Not a headline. She refused to let her pain become the only thing people came to see. The paintings were not evidence. They were not a confession. They were hers. On opening night, Lena wore a simple black dress. Not because red frightened her. Because she felt like wearing black. That choice, small as it was, pleased her. Maya cried before anyone arrived. Then threatened anyone who mentioned it. Grace gave Lena a fake security camera as a joke, so dark only survivors laughed properly. Mateo stood near the entrance scanning the street. You don't have to guard the door, Lena told him. I know, he said, and continued guarding it. Then Nico arrived. People still made room for him, but Lena did not feel swallowed by his shadow anymore. He stopped just short of touching her. Leaving the choice in her hands, Lena stepped forward, and his face softened in a way only she seemed to notice. A journalist approached with a voice recorder. Lena felt Nico's attention sharpen in the past. He would have moved between her and the world before anyone asked. Tonight, he stayed still. The journalist gestured to the largest canvas. Is this about your sister? There it was, the easy story. Sister against sister, victim and villain. Lena looked at the painting. A woman in red near black water. One hand raised toward rain. It's about what happens after survival, she said. People talk a lot about escaping, Lena continued. Not enough about learning how to live afterward. The journalist blinked, then nodded. Nico said nothing, and that silence felt like respect. When the gallery emptied later, Lena stood before the final painting alone. The woman in the painting was not surrendering. She was not defending herself. She was simply feeling the rain on her skin. Red had once meant humiliation, blood, fear, warning. Now it meant choice, ownership, a color she could use without flinching. Nico came to stand beside her. Is she you? He asked. Lena studied the figure. She used to be. A small smile touched her mouth. Now I'm the artist. Nico understood. He had a talent for words that could land like knives, but that night he chose none of them. He held out his hand. Lena took it. Later they drove through Chicago. Rain shining on the streets. The city that had once watched her disappear now looked different. Not softer, but less powerful over her. Nico did not ask where she wanted to go. He seemed to know, and for once that did not annoy her. The rooftop restaurant was still open. Places like that survived scandal by changing flowers, retraining staff, and pretending the tragedy had belonged to someone else. Lena looked up at the glass walls. Her pulse shifted, but did not race. Returning to the place where she had been humiliated felt less like proving something to others and more like taking a key back from a locked room. She rode the elevator beside Nico as an equal, her hand steady in his. The hostess either did not recognize her or was very good at pretending. They were seated at a corner table overlooking the city. Not the same table, but close enough. The dining room hummed with expensive calm. Lena ordered without rereading the menu 3 times. That alone felt like a private victory. When Nico ordered red wine, an old echo moved through her body. She felt it, named it, and let it pass. Yes, she said when the server looked at her. The dark liquid filled the glass. Her hand did not tremble. Across the room, she noticed a young woman sitting alone, checking her reflection in a spoon, trying hard to look as though she belonged. Lena recognized that kind of fear. She offered the woman a small, knowing smile. The woman looked startled, then smiled back. It was nothing. It was also not nothing. Lena looked out over Chicago. The city had become a map of everything she had survived. The museum, the apartment, the courthouse, the glass house, the gallery, this room. All of it layered like paint. She touched the scar on her palm, grounding herself in the body that had carried her through. I love you, she said. Nico went completely still. It was almost funny, seeing a man feared by entire rooms defeated by one simple sentence. You don't have to say that because tonight went well. He said, I know. You can take it back. I don't want to. His happiness appeared slowly, as if he did not trust it at first. Lena met him halfway across the table, smiling before he did. Their laughter rose into the quiet room. No glass shattered. No wine spilled. No ghost stepped from the elevator. Later in the window reflection, Lena saw them both. Glass used to frighten her. It had framed her, doubled her, trapped her beside Sloane's face. Tonight it showed a woman with paint still under one fingernail and a scar across her palm. Not the fragile twin. Not the rescued girl. Not the warning. Just Lena Whitaker. Outside, the rain softened into mist. Nico walked beside her when they left, matching her pace instead of guiding it. The bright city opened in front of them, unfinished and alive. At the curb, Lena stopped and looked back at the restaurant windows. For a moment, she could still see the old scene if she wanted to. The ivory dress, the red stain, Sloane's smile, all those silent faces watching. But the memory no longer pulled her under. It stayed where it belonged, behind glass. Nico waited without asking whether she was all right. That, too, was a kind of love. Lena slipped her hand into his and turned toward the street. A taxi splashed through a puddle. Somewhere above them, music drifted from an open window. The city had not changed for her. It was still sharp, loud, beautiful, unforgiving. But Lena had changed inside it. She was no longer asking permission to exist. As they walked into the rain-bright night, Lena caught her reflection in a shop window. For years her face had felt borrowed, contested, haunted by someone else's version of her. Now she saw herself clearly enough to stay, a woman with a scar on her palm. A woman who had been silent and then chose not to be. A woman who had learned that survival was not the ending, it was the doorway. Nico matched her pace, close but not leading. Behind them, the rooftop glass glittered like a closed chapter ahead. Chicago stretched open, alive with headlights and wet pavement, waiting for whatever she would make next. For the first time, when the world looked back at Lena, she did not look away.